Hi, folks. The other day I was listening to the radio and they were interviewing a woman who was working at a cashier, as a cashier in a grocery store, and she was complaining about all the people on food stamps who were buying crab legs and bottles of champagne while she was busting her ass to pay her rent. Um, the show They pointed out in the show that she was getting her facts kind of wrong. Most people on food stamps, the average, you get $150 worth of food stamps a month. I don't really know how many crab legs you can buy with that. They're pretty expensive around here. It does bring up an important point. The way Republicans and conservatives view poor people and the way liberals and Democrats view poor people is like night and day. When you use the word poor people to a Republican, what he thinks he's thinking about is some fat ass, probably a black or Hispanic fat ass, unemployed, sitting on his couch, munching on a crab leg, smoking a big joint, watching The Price is Right. Hey, honey, go out to can you get up and go out to the mailbox and see if my welfare check has arrived? And on your way back, give me another bottle of Cristal. This one's almost dead. When I think of poor people, liberals like me, when we think of poor people, I think about the people I see on the streets of Seattle every day as I go on about my business. I think about the crazy people that are off their meds, standing on the streets, screaming, talking to Jesus because of the budget cuts that have cut their treatment. I think about homeless veterans begging for spare change on the freeway off-ramp, some of them very young. I think about old people shuffling around from one garbage can to the other trying to scare up a meal because their SSI check hasn't shown up, or they had to spend the money on medication and now they got nothing to buy food with. I see single parents, sleeping on the bus. They're, going from one minimum wage job to another so that they can make ends meet. I work with a guy who he has a 3-hour bus commute to get to this minimum wage job he works at. He literally spends 1 hour of his wages every day on bus fare. As I drive to work, I see tent cities in vacant lots filled with people, couples, some of them with children. These people work, but they don't make enough money to afford an apartment. In this part of the world, you need first and last month's rent and a damage deposit before you can even get in the door. That could easily amount to $2,000 or $3,000 before you even start paying rent. When I think of the unemployed, I think of all those guys standing outside the Home Depot trying to get a job painting or digging ditches, doing anything to make a buck. I go in there in the morning, there's hundreds of them. I come back at 4 p.m., and half of them are still standing there. They've been out there all day. They haven't made a dime. I can only imagine what it must be like to go home after a day supposedly at work with nothing in your pockets. Go home to your wife and kids with nothing. Recently, I had to contemplate unemployment. The job I was working was kind of coming to an end. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get another one. I did the math. My benefits would have been about 2/3 of what my former salary had been. I don't know very many people who could afford to take a 30% pay cut and keep partying. My son, he's kind of in and out of jobs. In probably 5 years, he's never actually even qualified for unemployment, let alone for food stamps. He's a smart boy, but somehow he just can't seem to figure out how to fill out that form so that he can get food stamps and start eating crab legs and drinking champagne. For him, it's basically just lots of top ramen. Well, actually, not too much top ramen, but top ramen every day. Most poor people are white. Most poor people on welfare are white. Most of the unemployed are desperately seeking employment. 1 in 7 people in the United States is currently receiving food stamp aid. That's 44.7 million people. What's often overlooked in this discussion is, well, where does all that food come from? Well, it comes from farmers. Everybody loves farmers, right? And the ugly fact is that most small farms, the most beloved kind of farm, struggle along from one year to the next, one step ahead of bankruptcy. If the government were to stop subsidizing the consumption of food by eliminating the food stamp program, wholesale food prices would drop. Many of those small farmers would they would get less money for their crops and would simply not be able to crack the nut. They'd be bankrupt, and then they'd be standing outside of Home Depot. But, as you may have guessed, the truth is that most farmland is owned by giant corporations. So the food stamp program is really just a way of funneling taxpayer money to subsidize large corporations, keep those bondholders happy, generate those 10% year returns. There's a lot to be angry in all this, but I'm afraid that lady on the radio show is angry at the wrong people. She's angry at her neighbors and people that are, they were probably just like her once, but now they've lost their job. And if her employers decide to lay her off and ship the job over to China, she may find out she's exactly like them. The only people eating crab legs and drinking champagne are the banksters and the corporate pirates, the financial pirates, who run this country and fund the Republican Party. The point I'm trying to make is that being poor is no picnic. Any capable person they'll do whatever they have to do to avoid being poor. The old, the insane, the sick, the uneducated, the stupid, the single parents, they're an easy target to pick on. We can blame all, the Republican media thugs love to blame them for all our problems. But I got to tell you, it's not somebody, some addled old man collecting unemployment that's causing all these problems. It's for every welfare cheater out there, there are 10 financial pirates, Harvard School graduates who are, stealing money from the American public and paying no taxes, working the loopholes, working the scams, and driving this country into third world status. Don't hate the poor. The poor aren't the problem. It's the sociopathic rich who feel it's their God-given right to own the world and who don't give a damn about who they crush or hurt in the process. The people that really, they don't even care about America. They've got all their money off in a Swiss bank account somewhere. Those are the people that are the problem. Don't hate the poor. chances are, with a little bad luck, you may be one of them one of these days. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.